If you feel like you're tired all the time, even when you're getting enough sleep, this is probably not physical or mental exhaustion. It's something much deeper. Hi, my name is Jay, and I've worked with hundreds of clients who thought they were burnt out, only to realize that they were going through something else entirely. In this video, I'm going to show you the reality behind exhaustion that never seems to end. Even when you get enough sleep, even when you get good nutrition, I'm going to break down 3 invisible forces that are sucking the energy out of you. And I'm also going to show you at the end of this video what you can do starting today to get your energy back. By the way, if you're really interested in inner transformational work, stick around till the end. I'm going to show you how to do that. But first, let's get into the topic today. So the first thing I want to touch upon is your subconscious. And your subconscious is like this mechanism inside of your mind that's constantly looking for threats. It's constantly looking for things that could be dangerous to you. It's kind of, one of the functions of your subconscious mind. And you're looking around and you might not even be looking for something to go wrong, but when it does, it kind of immediately pops out to you. Kind of the reason why negative news is so much more popular than positive news. Why people pay attention to negative stuff more than positive stuff is just the way that the human subconscious is wired. We have, and all of us, we're all a little bit different. We're all wired a bit differently, depending upon what's happened to us in our early childhoods and the kind of experiences that we've had then. We all are a little bit different with respect to what sets off our inner alarm. So you could say that each one of us has a bit of a different fear. But this is not a fear of dogs or of blood or of heights that you're aware of. This is something that you're completely unaware of. So there was a time in my life where I was constantly exhausted. I did not know why I was exhausted. Now, I was always a good kid growing up. And even, as a young adult, I tried my best to be somebody who was responsible, somebody who was dutiful. And I was doing a job at that time. I worked really hard at this job because I believed that if I worked hard, I'd do well and, I'd be able to take care of my family. And that was one of my core values, was to be able to take care of my family. And I was just exhausted doing that job. And I don't know what it was, but I was really adamant on letting go of what was my dream to do what I thought was the right thing. I almost felt like a kind of rush when I did it. It's crazy, but in the moment, it felt really good making the sacrifice. Like, don't get me wrong, I had huge resentments, but a part of me was like, damn, imagine how good you're going to look to other people when they find out what you've done. You've sacrificed your entire life. Because, when you don't follow your own dreams, when you don't really do what you want to do, and you kind of set out on this path for life that you say to yourself, you're doing it for other people, you're doing it for your family, or you're doing it because it's the right thing to do. You feel like somebody who's sacrificed great amounts for other people, and it just makes you feel really superior, it makes you feel really good. And I got a kick out of that feeling. And I, not until much later on, realized that the reason I was so adamant in doing that is because I had this fear of not looking like a pure good person, of not being an absolutely perfect son to my parents, of not being the perfect man for the family. It was insane because it kind of trapped me in this two choices, and neither of them looked like a good choice. Because on one end, I could follow my dreams, but I was being a bad human being, because that would mean that I would essentially be sacrificing my parents, my family, what their dreams were for me, and what I thought would be best for our family. I would be sacrificing all of that to be a good guy, right? And basically be unhappy the whole time. And so this fear of not looking good, of not being perfect, this is something that kept showing up in my life in big ways and small ways. From the way that I dressed to the way that I spoke, everything was kind of affected by this fear. If I ever made a mistake, I would kind of go crazy, like even when speaking, even when um, dressing up, even when I was doing the smallest things. It didn't matter. Everything had to be absolutely perfect. And this fear of being imperfect was driving all of my behavior and was sucking the energy out of me. Because during those years of my life where I was unaware of why I was behaving in this way, I was trying to be so perfect in everything, it was exhausting. Because imagine, having this constant vigilance, this constant lookout of making sure that I keep this perfect image of the best son, the best friend, the best everything. Really, really hard. Even small things like, just having the best thing to say. More often than not, I would run scenarios in my head of what I could say to somebody, especially a stranger, and then I would get so overwhelmed I wouldn't say anything at all. And I just felt tired. I just felt exhausted. So the number one thing that I realized is that everyone is going to have a different subconscious fixation on avoiding certain things in their life. The point isn't what you're avoiding. The point is that this fixation saps your psychic energy, and it becomes extremely difficult to show up with all of you at your best, because a part of you is always looking out for threats. Part of you is always looking out for that one subconscious fixation, this one fear, that's kind of driving the whole boat. Then the second reason why people have this exhaustion that never seems to end, doesn't matter how much they rest, is because in order to combat this fear, we create beliefs and personas, and essentially, let's just call it masks, or let's just call it like a defense mechanism to protect themselves from these fears. So I touched a little bit on this earlier. When I was unaware about these tendencies and I was just trying to be the perfect guy, that perfect guy persona was the defense mechanism. It was essentially this mask that I was wearing, where I would suppress, anything that would make me look less than perfect. For somebody else, let's say their fear was being abandoned, or feeling unloved by other people, they would adopt the persona of always being helpful, always being pleasing, always being, this go-to person that would always be there for other people. Those personas that we create becomes a mask. And when you're holding up a mask, when you're holding up a front, it takes a lot of your energy as well. And I mean, it could be something in the sweetest of ways. For example, I mentioned earlier, you could be somebody who fears being abandoned, or fears, not having deep connections in their life, and so they put up a mask where they're always super pleasing to other people, have a very difficult time saying no, always helpful to other people, to an extreme degree, to a degree where you kind of self-sacrifice yourself, like I did, to help others. So the point is that whatever mask we're wearing, whatever is motivating us, to protect us from that fear. So the fear acts as motivation to create this mask that we wear. And now, on one end, the constant lookout for the threat and the fear is one source, one force that's taking energy away from you. And now, in order to protect yourself from that fear that you're already spending time and energy looking out for, you now create this defense mechanism that becomes this constant shield, this constant front that you're holding up in front of the world. It's like you're this country and you've got enemies on all borders, and you have a choice between looking after your people, growth, prosperity, advancements, and defending yourself. And where do you put your time, energy, money, effort as a country when you believe that you're surrounded by threats? It may or may not be true. You may not actually be surrounded by threats, or maybe those threats may not really affect your existence at all, but you believe that it does. And so when you believe that it does, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to spend a lot of time, energy, effort, money protecting yourself, building up walls, building armies, building weapons, building defense mechanisms. As human beings, we do the same thing. And this takes a tremendous amount of energy from you. It doesn't matter how much you sleep when a part of your energy is always going towards keeping this front up, keeping this mask up, keeping the performance up. It's really interesting how these masks, these psychological masks that we wear, these fronts that we have, they work. One of the things that I found in my studies, in my years of trying to find a solution, to how I could transform my own life was that I found a system which is a brilliant and controversial system. It's called the Enneagram. And it's one of the things that we in our inner transformation mastery use as a key foundational tool, a pillar. Because what it does is it tells you exactly what your fear is, and it tells you exactly the persona that you've created in order to protect yourself from that fear. Now, when you learn about these things, your other personality typing systems, what they do is they'll tell you, okay, this is what you're like. But they don't really tell you how you can grow from there. What I love about the Enneagram is that it actually tells you what you can do to get rid of the fear. What you need to do to even grow beyond your persona. Because the truth is, you're not going to move beyond your persona if you don't know its limitations, if you don't even know that it's operating in the background. If you don't realize that you're stuck in a pattern, how do you change that pattern? So in order for us to snap out of that trance, the first thing you have to do is see the trance. So when you see, oh my God, this is the fear, and in order to protect myself from that fear, this is the shell I've created. Okay, so this is the shell, and this is how it works. And this is all the ways that it limits me. And this is all the ways that it helps me, because it also helps you in certain ways. So when you see your shell in action, and you see the fear that's created the shell in the first place, and you realize that that fear may not actually be completely rational, that that fear actually comes from some sort of an experience in your past. Maybe you were betrayed in the past, maybe you had a traumatic event in the past, maybe you had just something that put an impact on you. Because I hate using the word trauma, because there's a lot of negative connotation with those words. Everyone has events in their life that create an impact, that leave an impression, and we generalize that one event to the rest of our lives. So if you're scolded for not being the absolute best versions of ourselves by a teacher at school or by your parents at home, scolded for making a mistake, then you generalize from that it's really bad to make a mistake. It's really bad to be less than perfect. And you try to be perfect in every area of your life. And how exhausting would that be? And how would that limit you? Because sometimes you've got to make a few mistakes. You've got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. And so realizing that that fear operates in the background, and that it may not really even be something that you need to be afraid of all the time. In fact, most in the world that we live today, we have very little to be afraid of. I'm not saying that the world isn't still dangerous. I mean, we hear about horrible things happening all the time. But the truth is, day to day, we're living in the safest, at least in most parts of the world, we're living in the safest ever and most prosperous time ever in the history of the earth, the history of mankind. And that's the truth. Go back 100, 200 years, and people could die from a literal fever because they just didn't have access to medicines and doctors like we do now. Women would die at childbirth. Today, that happens very, very rarely. So I'm just saying that the world has changed for the better. But we still have these fears, these very primal fears that run our whole system, that create patterns that we get trapped in. And so inner transformation is actually about identifying these patterns and breaking free of these patterns. So now you have got your fear, and the focus on the fear is taking some of your energy. Then you have the mask, the shields, the defense system, and that's taking a bit of your resources as well. Finally, you've got the two sides of the coin. You've got your true self, your true calling deep inside you. You know you have it. You know that there's something there inside of you that's calling out to you. That is your authentic expression, your authentic purpose. And it doesn't have to be something huge, by the way. It's that deep thing inside of you, that deep calling inside of you that even if you're not completely aware of what it's saying, you just know it exists. Maybe it's a faint sound at the back of your mind, but you wouldn't be watching this video if you weren't aware about it. The fact that you're here, you realize that there's something deep inside that's calling out to you, that real version of you that wants to do something in this world before his time or her time is up. And then there's the mask, and there's all the things that the mask is preoccupied with, all the things that the patterns kind of force themselves upon us and make us do and preoccupy us, our mental space, the actions, the behaviors that we have. There's a pulling here between something that is truly authentic to you and something that you feel is so important for your survival, but maybe it's not. And there's this constant pulling, this tension between two parts of you. And probably the biggest drain on your energy is this constant battle. And you can feel it, right? It's this, oh, I wish I could start a business and I've got this great idea and it would be so exciting, but I've got these responsibilities, I've got these duties, and I can't let go of the job that I have because what about this and that and this and that and all of those things that we tell ourselves. And this is the most painful thing, and it's an experience that's common to, I don't think there's a man or a woman on this planet that hasn't felt this. And it's going to be the biggest drain on your energy. Like, I remember when I was doing my job, the calling to be able to do this work, inner transformational work, or some kind of work where I work with people, work of the mind, my work of the psychology, it kept constantly pulling me. Remember when I was doing my education, this is what I wanted to study. And then 12 years later, after I'd gone in a completely different path, on a corporate career, I actually landed up exactly where I began. Funny thing is that I had completely forgotten about me wanting to do this work. I'd left my job to start a business in health coaching and nutrition coaching because I've always, that's another part of me that I've grown to really, really like enjoy. It was a hobby, and I said, why not make a hobby a business? And then as I started my journey into working with the body, working with the physiological health aspect of things, training people and all of that, and working on people's nutrition and lifestyle and all of that stuff, I just realized that everything is driven by the unconscious patterns, the mental and emotional patterns that run us. The engine of a lot of these patterns is fear. Fear that we're not born with, but fears that we've had, that because of experiences and early on in life, they start developing inside of us, they start growing and growing and growing. And we create defense mechanisms, patterns, ways of hiding from that fear. And these patterns get applied to everything that we do in life, whether it makes sense or it doesn't make, because sometimes it just doesn't make sense. The phobia of being abandoned and unloved by anyone in the world, the phobia of not looking completely perfect, the phobia of not looking successful, the phobia of being alone all the time and not finding your special person, the phobia of not looking intelligent enough or not being intelligent enough. You have to ask yourself, so what? If this were to come true, what would happen? And if you follow that train of thought and you stick with it for long enough, you'll find that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Because you'll find that through the deepest, darkest fears that you have, at the end, there's a way out. That's what I believe transformation is about. Because when you realize what it's like to be out of the tunnel, I'm not saying that you'll never go back inside the tunnel, but you will always have the courage to stick it through and find a way out at the end. And if you're somebody who's going through a difficult time right now, if you're going through exhaustion, if you're going through anxiety, if you're going through a difficult time in any way, and you know that there needs to be a deep inner change, some sort of inner change, a letting go, then there's a link in the description below. I'd invite you to come and click it. What I do is something which is experiential, which is immersive. We do live calls. We've got a community of people to support you. If you're interested in checking it out, go to the link in the description and do that. Otherwise, you can go and check out another YouTube video as well. Got plenty of them on this channel. If this resonated with you, leave a comment and let me know which part. And if there's something that I can do to help you, if you've got questions, again, leave comments on the video below, because I am committed to making a inner transformational revolution on this world, and I'm not joking about that. I really want to bring these tools to people like you. And if you watch this all the way to the end, all the way till now, my deepest gratitude. I hope to see you on the transformational journey. Take care. Bye-bye.